All right, at long last, here we go. It is the Holy Grail BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com. I am Chad Brendel. He is Dave Simone. And after a month, we're finally going to talk about Alabama.
I feel like we need The Rock's music, and then The Rock comes in and it's like, finally!
Hey, I know the people enjoyed Mo Egger, and I know that they enjoyed the roundtable, and I know that they enjoyed Dan Wetzel, but this is what we're here for. This is Chad and Dave breaking down the Cotton Bowl and Cincinnati taking on Alabama. If you can't go, the Holy Grail will be open. There will not be a cover. You are more than welcome to join a de facto Holy Grail watch party. I just won't be there. I'll be in Dallas. But if you're not going to be in Dallas, if for whatever reason you have to stay behind, unless you're quarantined. If you're quarantined, stay home. But if not, go to the Holy Grail and watch Cincinnati play for a spot in the national championship.
So you know how I don't go to watch parties for road games because I'm superstitious and bad luck?
Yeah.
If we lose this game because you're not at the watch party, given the magnitude of the game, do you overtake the bad luckness from me?
No.
Why not?
Because they've lost games that I've been at watch parties before.
Not this year.
Yeah, but that this year alone doesn't set the precedent.
Well, there weren't any last year. And they didn't lose any games last year.
No. But we really couldn't do them last year.
I know. I'm just saying.
That wasn't really an option.
I know.
We were there for Memphis 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Both games. Neither of those turned out well. And we still haven't lost since then. So, no, I don't think this impacts my ability to do watch parties.
Just checking.
Forward. I think we're okay there.
No, I'm just saying if they lose, it's your fault.
Oh, okay.
Because you're not at the watch party.
Well, it's a road game, and you're going to be there. So if they lose, it's your fault.
No, I've been to 2 road games this year. They won both.
Let's get into it, Dave. Let's get to the nitty gritty of Cincinnati versus Alabama. First, your thoughts on Alabama trying to sell themselves as an underdog in this game.
I mean, it's not a surprise. They've made up quotes before and put them in their own locker room.
That's fair.
It is what it is. I mean, it's a silly thing to say. Kind of like how Bryce Young, when he accepted the Heisman Trophy,
talked about how he's always been an underdog.
How he's always been an underdog. Yeah, you were the number 1 quarterback coming out of high school from the number 1 high school football program in the history of high school football.
Right?
So to say you're an underdog, and then to say we've been disrespected, saying that a team is not as good as last year's team, whether it's UC Alabama or anybody else, saying that a team is not as good as last year's team and discussing valid critique / concerns of that team does not equal disrespect. But hey, you do you, Will Anderson. I'm sure you're going to have a fantastic game on Friday, and you're likely going to be the first or second player drafted whenever you decide to come into the NFL. So play the disrespect card all you want.
It's a wild deal. Of course, of course it's vintage Nick Saban. I mean, this is what Saban does. That's why I made the joke that this is actual rat poison, right? This is bad for the sport. No one believes you. Everyone knows it's bullshit. Hey, Brian, what's going on? Jared, welcome in. Everybody knows it's bullshit. Could you imagine having to have been one of, like, there were a couple that called it for the BS that it is, but can you imagine being an Alabama writer and sitting down and actually writing disrespected underdog Alabama in a legitimate article?
Well, yeah, that's what I tweeted out. I tweeted out last year's national champion, who is the number 1 seed in this year's playoff, full of 4 and 5 stars, is playing the disrespect card or whatever, however I ordered it. But like, it's just, whatever.
It's hilarious. That's what it is. It's legitimately.
I guess it's just like, is it just
comical.
Will Anderson saying something, or is this like a theme that's like permeating throughout the entire locker room? Or I don't know. You never know.
It's something that they're all talking about. Like, everybody thinks that, we're not as good as last year and blah,
They're
blah,
not.
blah, blah.
They're not as good as last year. But
nobody disrespecting you.
But no one's asking them to be as good as last year or comparing them to last year. They're not last year's team.
Right.
So whatever.
It's hilarious.
Oh, it's funny, but you take it for what it is.
From Nick Saban, you have to expect nothing less, right? Like,
no, I mean, the guy's arguably, not arguably, I don't know, the best football coach in the sport's history. Like,
right?
Him and Bill Belichick. If you want to parse NFL and college, like, hey, if that's what you think is going to work to win you another national championship, then by God, all means, do it. Like, I got no problem with that.
And hey, Brian over here is saying I'm not a supermodel. Brian, I had a friend send me a picture from when I first started doing radio and TV. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. Tell me that guy's not a supermodel?
Look at those chops.
Look at the chops. Look at the hair. Like, that's his supermodel. I should be in the cover of Vogue.
Was that you at like 15 years old?
No, that's like 27, 28. Tell me I don't look like Chillin' Dylan from 90210 right there.
Kind of do.
I know, right?
He had an unceremonious, short-lived life, though.
Yeah.
Don't want to follow the same path.
He's one of the best-looking dudes on the planet in the 90s. I look just like him in the 2000s. So, kiss my ass, Brian. I was texting with, like, I did public access TV in Northern Kentucky when I was first getting started in my career, and we had a show that it actually ended up being copied almost
as long as your radio stint with Skinny.
Oh no, this lasted much longer. I did that show we did like 150 episodes of that show.
Oh wow.
It was like 3-4 years it was on. Just kind of cutting our chops and learning the way of the business.
Were you wearing a referee's uniform?
Yeah, so basically the idea of that show was what the hell? Tony Reale.
Oh, like Around the Horn?
It was Around the Horn before there was Around the Horn. I was the official. There was a panel. When they would say stupid stuff, I would blow the whistle and they would be put in timeout. And then like a year after we started that, then Around the Horn came on. We were like,
are there any other local celebrities that were on the show with you, or they've all moved on to bigger and better things?
Mo was on the show. Mo, one of Mo's best friends, half brother was one of the regular hosts. So this was kind of the start of Mo's career, and we had Mo on the show. So yeah, there was dignitaries. We had Betsy Ross. Remember Betsy Ross?
Oh, I had Betsy as a professor when I got my master's at Norwood Prep.
Betsy, one of the great lines that shaped my time in television. So the show started at like 7:00, right? And we had scheduled Betsy as a guest. And it was like 6:58, and we were live. It was live TV. Like at 7:00, we were going live, and I'm like stressing, like she's not going to be here, And she had done ESPN for years at that point. Like she was a pro, and she strolled in at 6:59:30, walked over, mic'd herself up, straightened herself out, and I was like, that was cutting it close. She's like 30 seconds. you can die in 30 seconds. Like, I made it here on time. I don't want to hear no shit from you. It was
She's
great.
like, this is fucking public access TV.
Right?
I'll show up when I want. Like, you're lucky I showed up at all.
Yeah, you're lucky I got here. You're lucky I didn't walk in 15 minutes late for a 16-minute segment. So yeah, we had some names, some dignitaries, but it was good. We'll pop that back up just for the people that, that was me. I guess that would probably be 2003, 2003,
Where do you even
2004.
find such a picture at this stage?
A buddy of mine that was on the show, I guess, was going back through old like tapes, watching it last night, and he was sending me all these screenshots.
Oh my god!
From yeah, he was like just like messing with me, like, remember when you look like this?
Hey, maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Alabama, focus. We got to focus.
Alabama.
They're
good.
Yeah, like this isn't a hard scouting report to do, brother. Like they have an awesome run defense. They have one of, if not the most explosive passing offenses in the country, even though without John Mechie. We'll see exactly what that looks, what this iteration of that looks like without him. Pass defense is solid, if not, with Will Anderson, their pass rush can be spectacular. But there are some yards to have through the air if you can block them.
I agree.
And then their run game, that's the really interesting thing for me, because their run game has been okay this year. It hasn't been Alabama-like at all. And I think that's why you've seen a lot of the closer contests with Bama than you've seen in years past. So this is still a look. If Alabama that played Georgia shows up, forget it. Right?
I would agree.
If Alabama that played Auburn shows up, let's see where the chips fall.
Right. And I think there's things to dissect in all of that. I mean, where do you want to start? Where do you want to start?
Where do you want to start?
I mean, I guess I have a few kind of like main questions that I think we need to kind of talk through to get to kind of our final thoughts. Do you want to start offense or defense?
Their offense is kind of the bread and butter. So let's start defense and we'll work our way to offense.
So their defense.
Yes, Alabama's defense. Let's start there.
It's very simple. What does UC do against Will Anderson?
Yeah. If they can block.
They can't. No one can block him. He's got 15 and a half sacks and 31 and a half tackles for losses. They ain't blocking him. But what can they do to try to minimize his impact to not just be total game wrecker?
Right.
I mean, he's the best. He's the best player in college football. He's like, I don't know if it's really debatable. So what do you do? Because you certainly can't just say, Dylan O'Quinn, go play the greatest game of your life, have an out-of-body experience, block this guy that no one else has been able to block all year by yourself. Have fun. That cannot happen.
Good luck, right?
So what do you do?
I think I think we're going to see more quick game. I think, screens a little bit more prominent, at least early. I think what the key is early, right? You need to kind of get them.
Because if the game gets out of hand in that way late, then it doesn't really matter. He's already made his mark. If that's
that's the biggest thing of this game for me. Like, just as a whole, if it's 10-7 at the end of the first quarter, I think Cincinnati's in a pretty good spot.
I would agree. And
if it's 20-3 or 17-3, like, it's going to be a long day in Dallas.
Enjoy Jerry World and have some cold ones.
Right.
I mean, it's a catch-22 with them. Their pass defense is very pedestrian, very average. One of their starting corners, Josh Jobe, is out. One of their safeties could be the best player on their defense, but half the time he has no idea what he's doing. So the way to beat them is to throw, but then that also means that you're opening yourself up to Will Anderson, Phil Mathis, who scares me almost as much as Will Anderson does, playing defensive tackle with 8 sacks this year.
Yeah,
and I'll get
and
into why.
that's where it's,
and I'll get into why with that. But then you also
Yeah.
have a linebacker group that isn't great, but they do rush the passer. Henry To'oto'o, 4 sacks. Dallas, what's his name? Dallas Turner, 5 sacks. So, and we've seen this season UC be susceptible to pressure up the middle. So you're going to have a player, Phil Mathis, not as good as Jordan Davis from Georgia, but a similar type player. And they have other similar type players to what UC saw last year against Georgia along the defensive line. Aziz Azalai had 3 sacks. Adam Anderson had 2 sacks. UC gave up 8 sacks in the Peach Bowl. So really, when I'm looking at this game, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of Peach Bowl, Notre Dame, and comparing that to what I think we're going to see. UC did not run the ball effectively in either of those games. Outside of Ford's long run against Georgia, he had like 18 yards on 7 carries, something like that. I mean, it was not good. Dez did not have very many yards truly rushing, even when you take out like sack adjusted against Georgia. Now he had a little bit better game against Notre Dame, and Ford had a little bit better game, but it was still only like 3.9 a carry. So I'm going to be interested to see how we try to run the ball, because I don't think we can just – Dez can't like drop back 40 times and then be competitive in this game.
no, he's going to get sacked 10.
That's not going to happen. So how do they run the ball? How do they incorporate Jerome? Still incorporate him if the running game is not working, which I'm not expecting it to. Like, I'm expecting
they give up what, 2.5 yards a carry?
They're like 4th in the country in rush defense. Yeah, I mean they're outstanding against the run. So I'm expecting it to be a similar running type game that it was against Georgia and Notre Dame. So where do we generate plays offensively without just like trying to throw it up to Alec Pierce or what? It's gonna, like, I'm much more confident, and this is a crazy thing to think about. Like, I'm much more confident with the defense going up against a Heisman Trophy winner and maybe the best wide receiver in college football than I am UC's offense going up against Alabama's defense. And Brian says run, Des, run. If he doesn't come close to like 75 true rushing yards, I don't think UC has a chance. Like, they're going to have to do design runs. It's going to have to be creative. Like, that has been a kryptonite for Alabama defenses in the past is mobile running quarterbacks. And like their defense is kind of strange. Like, they will give up yards, they will give up plays, but they will also like make the key interception, make the key stop.
Yeah, they're Cincinnati in that regard.
So I'm just like, I don't know is it Noah Davis?
The tight end?
The tight end? Am I missing his first name wrong?
No, Noah Davis.
Okay. Does he play more as a block? Do we see more 12 personnel? Because you got to do something with Will Anderson. And if that means that an extra wide receiver isn't on the field as much, then I think that's what it has to be. Like, I do not think we can just line up there the way we normally do and think that it's going to be good enough against him.
Yeah, the thing that is interesting to me, 2 things. Can Cincinnati get to the edge? because that's like always one of the things against an Alabama. Like you just don't have the speed to get to the edge, to kind of start stretching them out, to start creating space.
And that's the problem with a guy like Phil Mathis is he pressures up the middle and Dez bails. That plays into Will Anderson because like he'll just chase your ass down.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and if you're thinking about a quarterback dropping back and then escaping, that is infinitely harder to do when there's pressure in your face. Like this is a huge game for Jake Renfro.
And I mean,
and both guards,
the middle of the line. It's a massive game. So I mean, it's just I don't know. Because we saw this year they were at their best when Jerome Ford had big games. The offense, and that's not like it's not like some secret. Oh, when your running back has a great game, your offense is better. No, we're not. Not a secret. But we also it also translated to the stagnation that we saw at times. And UC is an okay third down team, but they're not great. And Alabama's very good on third down defense. So we cannot get into these situations where we run the ball on first down, we get 2 yards, we throw the ball, it's incomplete, and now it's 3rd and 8, and here comes the pass rush.
Right.
Like it's just, and then that's where you get into the problem of, Mason Fletcher has had a very good year for a freshman, but he is not James Smith. You just keep doing those 3 and outs or 1 first down and punt, and you're just you're playing that field position game where you're just, no matter how good your defense is, you're just giving Bryce Young and that offense too many opportunities.
Right.
It's an opportunity game. It's not we're amazing defensively, we're going to shut them out. It's an opportunity game. You give them the ball on the 35 or 40-yard line 3 times in a row, they're going to score. Like, it's just going to happen. So, how do you run the ball? How does the interior of the offensive line hold up? What do you do against Will Anderson? And if you can't run the ball, how do you keep Jerome Ford involved? Because he's one of your best players. Right. So you have to figure out a way to get him the ball, even if it's not a conventional, just hand it off tackle type situation.
But here's the thing with him. If you're going to see whether or not you have the speed to get to the edge on Alabama, that's a guy that does.
Well, he's got this. I don't think that's in question. You have to be able to block it so he can get there, though.
True. True.
But he can, if you just pitched him the ball and said run around the corner, I mean, he can do it. But that's not how their plays are designed. So
we've seen more outside stuff.
They've done a little bit
this year.
A little bit more of it, but their linebackers and their defensive backs on those quick, just Dez catches the snap and quick tosses it off to the side. They're gonna see that coming, and they're gonna read that a lot better than a lot of the teams that we've played.
Of course, but that's why if you have a guy that has the speed to turn the corner, that's where you find out whether you do or not.
For sure.
I think you're going to need to do some of that at least early. I'm interested to see, are you going to be able, we've seen game plans where they've used crossers a lot. How much is Bama going to bring pressure? How much are they going to see at least initially? Can we do this with 4 or 5? Because if we can do this with 4 or 5, then we can really stifle.
Well, they're going to, I imagine that's what their initial plan will be.
Me too. That's why I just said that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I missed that part. I don't know how much of when you have Will Anderson and you have a defensive tackle with 8 sacks, I'm not sure how much blitzing you really need to do.
Yeah, but you brought up their linebackers have a lot of sacks. They blitz. They don't just sit back.
No. But they might look at it as let's just see what Will can do.
Yeah, that was my thought. We'll see at the beginning of the game.
We'll play a bit of coverage because we feel strong that our front 4 will be able to handle the run.
Yeah, let's see what the first 3-4 possessions look like. Just bringing 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. Sorry.
Yeah.
And if we can get to Ritter with 4, maybe the occasional blitzer, then all of a sudden that defense becomes a real bitch to figure out.
Right. How many throws, like actual attempts, do you think is the sweet spot for Dez in this game?
Probably 25 to 30. I guess depending on number of plays, right?
But he threw it 37 times against Georgia.
Yeah. A lot of that was shorter stuff too, though.
Yeah,
that
because
was
he was
essentially the
24.
running game.
He was 24 for 37, but for only 206 yards.
Yeah, there was a lot of it that. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised to see a higher number if that's the case, where there's screens, there's checkdowns, there's getting it out quick.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Can you realistically line up and run 20, 25 times into the teeth of this Alabama defense?
I mean, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think they only ran it like 19 times in the Peach Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Ford had 7 carries outside of his long run. Nobody else had more than 2 carries besides Dez.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's a little bit different this year. Like Montgomery, Chuck, we'll see.
Yeah, but we haven't, in the big games, we really haven't seen anybody but Jerome.
No, that's true.
I don't know, I guess probably 30, 35 would probably, if you count in the short game and using that as an extension of the running game, I guess 30, 35 is probably about right. And then 20, 25 rushes.
Jason asked,
do you run 40 pass?
Jason asked, do you run Dez early a few times to make them waste a spy linebacker? I think you just run him early because you have to and see how they defend it. I don't know whether they'll use a spy or not. I think that's kind of pointless, and I imagine Saban will too. I mean, if you watch enough of Dez, many teams have spied him. None of their spies are as athletic as him.
Yeah, but that problem is probably moot with Alabama, right?
Yeah, but you're not going to use like a safety as a spy. It has to be a linebacker.
Their linebackers are pretty athletic, though.
Yeah, they're still not as athletic as he is. I mean,
Right.
I know Henry To'oTo'o is like a quintessential like run stuffy linebacker.
Right.
Great tackler, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just like it's hard. Like Will Anderson is just such a factor that it makes it hard for me to be like, unless goofy stuff happens, like, yeah, they'll score 30.
Who, Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the sweet spot in this game is probably, 24, 27 for Cincinnati. Here's the thing I wonder on offense, Dave. Are they going to have the ability to hit that spurt that we've seen so many times from this team? Where,
yeah, I mean,
you know,
and Alabama does the same thing too. So it's very interesting matchup in that regard. But yeah, I mean, they've played with their food on occasion, and then boom, 21 points in, a quarter or less.
Yeah.
That seems a little less likely in this game. Just because.
Yeah, but they played some. I mean, you look at Notre Dame and Houston. They played 2 really good defenses and still been able.
Houston could get after the quarterback, and they did an excellent job in that game. So I don't want to discount that. Explosive plays. Where do those come from? In the Peach Bowl last year, their longest pass play was like 18 yards.
And that was that the one Dez kind of looped to Wiley at the end of the first half?
I don't know if it was that one or not, but
maybe that one just felt longer because he was
12
yards behind the line of scrimmage
and at the other hash and everything like that.
Right.
Yeah. So, do you see, do we run a lot more two tights? But that's with, Wiley and Lenny, and one of them is chipping Will Anderson every play before they go out for a pass, and the other one is going out for, are we, there's a lot they can do. I just get concerned. It all comes back to being able to run the ball, because if you're always, like we saw in the Georgia game, if you're always in these third and long situations, you're just asking for trouble in pass protection. And it's not because you have a bad offensive line. You can only do so much.
Yeah.
And I don't think UC's offensive line is bad, but it has been, I would say, average with good moments, but it's just been inconsistent. It's kind of what I'm going to talk about with Alabama's offensive line when we talk about their offense. But I don't know. There's plays to be had, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of 10, 12 play drives keeping this game interesting or giving UC a chance to win.
Not unless Dez is just brilliant on third down.
Yeah, I mean, if he's scrambling, picking up 9 yards on 3rd and 8, stuff like that, sure. But he needs to, like I said earlier, 75 yards. He needs some chunk runs. This needs to be
the game of Desmond Ritter's life.
He needs to make a play plays that dictates to them some sort of adjustment to their original plan of attack. Where he makes a couple plays and they go, okay, this isn't going to work because he's going to keep doing this. And, we need to make an adjustment.
Right. I mean, this has to be the game of Dez's life, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fucking national semifinals. If he doesn't,
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying anything
play great,
shocking.
They lose and the season's over. If he doesn't play great, they lose. As much as, I love Dez, for the first time in a long time, he's not the best quarterback on the field.
Right.
So he has to play a great football game.
Yeah. Great football game. So
everybody does. I mean, everybody does. It's the national semis.
Yeah. I mean, this is literally the game of your life. Yep. Until you win, and then you have the next one.
That's right.
All right, let's switch over to Cincinnati on defense, Alabama on offense. This clearly starts with Jamison Williams and Bryce Young.
I don't think it does.
But maybe the bigger story is Alabama's offensive line against Cincinnati's front 6, 7,
yes.
However you want to look at it.
So, Alabama in the SEC championship game moved their center to right tackle and started a center in his first ever game. And after a couple shaky drives, they were obviously pretty fucking good because they went on a 31-7 scoring run.
Right.
So, did they fix it? Or was that an anomaly? Because against Auburn, they couldn't block anybody.
Right.
So, conventional wisdom says a month off, Nick Saban, semifinals, they boat race pretty much everybody that they've played in the semifinals. The offensive line we see will be more like the offensive line we saw in the SEC championship game than in the games where they struggled. Now, here's an interesting stat I heard today, listening to other podcasts. So when you talk about pressure rate, you talk about pressure rate defensive line, we talk about it all the time because UC has one of the higher pressure rates in the country defensive line-wise. There's also a number offensive line wise, like how many true pass plays are you giving up pressure on? So Alabama this year, I wrote this down so I would get it right. They gave up more. There were more games where they allowed a 40% or greater pressure rate than games where they allowed less than 30%. Two of those games where they were actually good allowed less than in 4 games they allowed less than 30%. 2 of those were out of conference and one was to Mercer. Allowing 40% pressure rate is like get your offensive line coach fired bad.
Right.
Which also then shows you how damn good Bryce Young is.
Yep.
That in the majority of their games, their offensive line was get their coach fired bad. And he
won the Heisman.
And he threw 43 touchdowns and won the Heisman. So UC is going to pressure. I mean, we know they're going to do that. I still think though that they cannot fall into the trap that Georgia fell into in the SEC championship game, which was we're damn good. We're going to do what we do. And Alabama was like, okay, you can do what you do, but if you don't ever change anything up, then it becomes somewhat easy to go against.
Right.
Like Georgia is, I've heard them described as the way their defensive line, like they legitimately call their like defensive line play like gladiator play, like blunt force trauma. Like they just want to beat the shit out of you. It's not anything special. It's not anything fancy, disguising, they just come at you with aggression. I don't think UC can do that. I don't think they can just line up their 3-down linemen and just say, or 4-down linemen and just say, okay, guys, go win your one-on-ones. Like, they need to get creative, whether it's corner blitzes, safety blitzes, delays, A-gap, twists, stunts, all that stuff. You need to try to confuse a group that has basically a brand new center and a group that has been bad. You need to be able to cast doubt in their mind that what we did against Georgia, it was an anomaly. It was not a starting point to something better.
Right.
Because they are not special in the running game. I mean, they're 80th in yards per carry, just over 4 a game. This is probably the worst overall running back room that Saban's ever had.
Could probably use a guy like, I don't know.
Maybe a guy like Jerome Ford. I mean, they had some guys, but I think they got hurt.
I know.
But like
I'm being funny.
They're 105th in sacks allowed. They're 113th in tackles for loss allowed. So like there is opportunity for pressure and to make plays there. You just have to rush so smart because Bryce Young is a freaking magician in the pocket and is unbelievable at evading rush while keeping his eyes down the field and is very accurate but will run too. So it's like, it's just he's a very hard quarterback to rush against because you want to be ultra aggressive because the offensive line is not very good. But you also then know in the back of your mind, like if we don't get to him, he's going to carve us up.
Yeah. And you worry a little bit because this has been a defense that at times has gotten to the quarterback and not finished the play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have to have a announced, kind of when we talked about towards the beginning of the year, and then as soon as we talked about it, it went to shit against Tulane, how they were such great tacklers.
Yeah. It's gotten back to normal.
It's gotten back to it, but like it can't revert back to that. I mean,
right.
Again, it's the semifinals. Like we talk about this, and I think we have to constantly remind ourselves that like this isn't the Peach Bowl. This is like being in the Final Four in college basketball. You're like you've made it. Like you're gonna play another good team. You have to play your best game to win. In all phases.
Jamison Williams. Ahmad Gardner.
Bad motherfucker. But so's Ahmad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be.
Does Ahmad follow him?
He has to. Are you kidding? Why? I mean, like, why wouldn't you?
Okay. We've seen them do it some. Like, it has been something they've done this year.
If they don't, I question. Like, I will outwardly question what you're doing.
I mean, you feel pretty good with Kobe on him still, right? I mean, you feel better with Ahmad, but
I mean, I don't really feel great about Kobe on him, to be quite honest. His speed is not of this world.
yeah, he's fast. He's really fast.
So no, I would, because and that's the thing with the Mechie injury. You're going from 96 catches. He's got 30 more catches than Jamison Williams this year. He was there across the middle, third down, money guy.
I would be dreading this game if they had Williams and Mechie.
So
because Mechie does so many of the things that have terrorized this defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like drags and just getting into space and making plays, and Williams, very technical, very good hands, insanely fast, like you talked about. But I mean, I think you have to wonder, was some of that the attention that teams had to give to Mechie, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it works. It just look at look at the Bengals. We'll just use that because we're getting to the point now where what do you do?
Right.
So with Alabama, they're going from a 96 catch, 1,100 yard, 8 touchdown guy gone. Next closest, most likely to replace those snaps, Slade Bolden, 32 catches, 332 yards, 2 touchdowns. Insane drop off. And the guys that'll probably rotate in with him are even lower. I mean, Trayshawn Holden, 15 for 211 and 1 score. Ja'Cory Brooks had the 1 catch against Auburn that everybody remembers, but that's kind of all he's done all year. I mean, these guys are extremely talented, but they have not been asked to replace an All-American first-round type wide receiver. So what kind of pressure do they feel to step up and fill those shoes? What kind of pressure does Bryce Young feel to maybe force the ball to Jamison Williams? I'm very concerned about their 2 tight ends. I think they're going to go to those guys a lot. And those dudes, they can go. Just like Darrell Washington last year with Georgia. You had him. You had Michael Mayer. You've got 2 guys, Cameron Latu, 6 touchdowns, Jaleel Billingsley, 3 touchdowns. We have not really seen, you don't see a bunch of true receiving tight ends in the American. Houston has a couple, but they didn't really get them involved. SMU had Grant Calcaterra, but UC dog walked them so quick, that was kind of non-existent. The only one we can really talk about is Michael Mayer, and he had a great game on 1 leg.
Right.
So you got 2 guys. I mean, we all have great faith in Brian Cook, and we have faith in Deshaun Pace, but we haven't seen an offense that really uses them as a focal point. And I think with their inability to run the ball consistently, and I'm hoping if they can run the ball, then this shit is over.
That's the nightmare scenario, right? Is they're piling up 5 yards of carry.
I'm just assuming we stop the run, because if we don't, then nothing that we're talking about matters.
Yeah.
They stopped the run against Georgia. They stopped the run against Notre Dame. If they don't stop the run against a team that averages 4 yards a carry and whose offensive line gives up almost as much tackles for loss as any team in the country, then all this other analysis doesn't really mean shit. Because they're just going to use those big-ass 5-star offensive linemen like Evan Neal on the left side, and they'll just lean on us all game. And they'll throw it to the tight end, and then when we creep up, they'll hit Jamison Williams over the top.
Without question. Like that's been in the back of my mind since this game got announced, right? Like we are just anticipating that Cincinnati will stop the run. Even though Cincinnati has shown at times that stopping the run is a problem. How much do you have to worry that while Cincinnati, because this is what I've talked about the whole time, right? Saban with time is a nightmare. Saban with a month to prepare is a nightmare, right? He's like Bill Belichick. When you zig, he zags.
Yes.
Cincinnati's going to prepare this game to stop Bryce Young and Jamison Williams, and Saban goes, you know what? We're running at you 40 times. Stop it.
Or we'll go a bunch of 2 tight ends and see how you stop that.
Yeah, we run it at you with 2 tight ends. We play action you. Like, we just bludgeon you to death.
Yeah, I mean,
and our defense is going to stop your offense. Like, we're not worried. We think we can get 3-4 touchdowns running right at you the whole game, and we don't think you can score more than 3 touchdowns on us. Let's go old school.
Yeah,
I mean, worried about that
for sure. Because if you look at the SEC championship game against man coverage, Bryce Young was only 6 for 17. Now he did hit a big throw on man coverage for a touchdown, but most of their big plays were on busts from Georgia's safeties. But something that I'm interested to watch, because it's such a part of Alabama's offense, is they do run a lot of stacks and bunches. And I think they're going to do that to try to get Jamison Williams free releases.
Sure.
Get him on those just quick 5-yard crossers that just allow him to try to outrun everybody like he did against Georgia. Now that was also a bust on the safety, but like they're going to bunch him, they're going to trips, they're going to do all that stuff to try to keep Ahmad and Kobe from just being, one-on-one, jam you at the line type stuff. Like, they'll run all sorts of action off of those, alignments. So that's definitely a concern, because I don't think they're just going to put Jamison Williams out there and go, okay, you 2 guys have a day. Like, they're going to move him around. They're going to put him in formations that are advantageous to him getting a free release.
Man, Saban with time just scares. It does. David scares the shit
because
out of me.
He's never like analysis by paralysis at.
Right. He has picked it. Like, that's the thing. He's so good at looking at your tape and saying, this is what we're best suited to do to beat you, and then getting his team to go out and execute it perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, they've won how many freaking national championships? Like, why would this season be any different?
Right.
I mean, and maybe they're not like, this isn't the best Alabama team that he's had, but I mean, you're splitting hairs. Like, it's not like they suck. Okay. Like,
no, they're still elite at like
the most
3
important
of the 5
positions.
phases of the game.
They're elite at quarterback, defensive line,
right,
wide receiver. Like, they still have even with Josh Jobe out, they still have some outstanding corners. Like, no, it's just not.
They have a great run defense. They have a great pass offense, borderline elite in both phases, if not elite in both phases.
Their pass offense is absolutely. Now it goes down a notch without Mechie. I mean, it can't.
Yeah.
It can't still be elite without Mechie, but like in all passing stats, they are elite.
Right. So, like, even though we talk about this isn't Death Star Alabama, the Death Star also didn't blow up. It's still functional. Like, it might have some, some holes in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's one of Saban's probably best coaching jobs, because he doesn't have the, I would say, like, he doesn't have the group of veterans that he can, quote unquote,
lean on.
And the way he talks to them and
right.
coaches them, I'm not sure he has that group. Like,
that's kind of what I mean by lean on. Like Luke does with Dez and Kobe. And
this is the quote unquote, like, kids are soft, in air quotes. Like, he doesn't have like those just dudes that he can, kind of say whatever he wants to say and they're fine with it.
Right.
So he's to get to this point, to lose game the way he did to Texas A&M, to have close games, to come back, to turn around and do what you did to Georgia. And part of me wonders, like, how much of that is just Alabama is Georgia's daddy?
Yeah.
And once stuff starts going bad, you just go, oh, here we go again. No matter how good we think we are, we can't beat them.
Yeah, we got nothing. We got nothing for Alabama.
And I think it's going to be like, I'm super interested just to watch the game as just from a like game flow and how you see just because like these dudes don't give a shit about how many national championships Alabama has won.
Dude, they have been like the past 2 days, the two media sessions have been as good as you could possibly ever dream for. Listening to them, like, basically have all the Alabama writers like try to like, have them bow at the throne to kiss the ring. Like, how lucky are you to be here? How awesome does it feel to get the chance to play Alabama? And they have handled it masterfully. Nobody took the bait. Nobody, said anything stupid. And every time it was like, look, man, we're just here to play football. Like, I don't know what you guys want from us, what you want us to say, what you want us to do, but we're just here to be Cincinnati. Like, we're not here to care about Alabama and what their accomplishments are and this, that, and the other. We're here to be Cincinnati. And if that's good enough to win, it's good enough to win. We're not here to kiss anybody's ass. We're not here to be anybody's bitch. Like, no, we got here. We earned our way here. We deserve to be here. We belong here. We're ready to tee it up and see what that gets us.
Now, I heard this quote on a other podcast that I listened to, and I do not listen to Kanye West, but I thought this was interesting. They're talking about UC and Alabama, and you might know this. I'm sure you do, and some of our listeners do. But he said, like, the quote was, "What is God? What is a God to a non-believer?"
Right.
And like, everybody thinks Alabama is God, but what is that to a bunch of dudes that just don't believe it? Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to go out and win, but like, you've got 23, 24-year-old, maybe even 25-year-old, I don't know.
Joe DeBlanco's been at UC for 6 years, Dave.
I mean,
But
you have
Cook,
just...
Or not Cook, but Brooks and Brown, 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, you have dudes. You have old-ass men playing against highly, highly rated and highly, highly talented kids, 19, 20-year-olds. Now, UC has some of those guys too. Don't get me wrong. But like, it's kind of so, but what does Alabama's history mean to a bunch of guys that really just don't care?
Right.
And have a coaching
they
staff
respect
that does
it.
Well, of course. I mean, no one's saying like, we don't think they're good or they don't deserve to be there. Like, they're damn good. But like, they're not going to walk out there and think that they don't have a chance. And, what is, I get a kick sometimes out of the like, well, the Alabama roster is way better. I'm like, well, yeah, if you go 1 through 85, yeah, it's better.
Right.
Half of those guys are never even going to see the field. So what does it matter?
Probably more than half of them.
What does it matter if they've got like 35 4-stars, on their roster? If 15 of them don't play.
Right.
Because UC has very, very high-end talent. And I've heard several times like, oh, it'll be a attrition thing and the defensive line will wear them out. And that might very well be true. Like, Alabama's going to cycle in dudes along the defensive line all game. And UC, likely not going to cycle through offensive linemen. You just don't see that. But
Vinny and Metz might rotate.
they might. Brian says, breaking news, I don't listen to Kanye. That is accurate, except for the opening to The Hangover. I like that song. But there's a lot going on that I'm just interested to see how it shakes out. Mainly both offensive lines. Like, all the hype is around, like, Dez and Jamison Williams and Sauce Gardner. But, like, really, to me, it's about, is Alabama's offensive line fixed to the point of, do they play a lot more like they did against Georgia or a lot more like they did against Auburn?
Right.
And what can UC's offensive line do to slow Will Anderson down and run the ball? I think that's gonna tell the tale of the game the most, because if UC can get pressure and contain Bryce Young from escaping.
Let's go back to the Notre Dame game, right? What are the two biggest plays in those games? Plays where the defensive line got home. It was half a second late, but it impacted the throw.
Right, forced interception.
And they got two massive interceptions.
Yes, right.
Like,
right.
Can that happen?
Can that happen? And then conversely, how does UC handle Phil Mathis and Will Anderson, and can they run the ball on rundowns and not get into third and long?
I just got some good news.
Bryce Young's out of the game?
No, not quite that good. I'm in for Mo tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
On ESPN 1530. I was informed today that they're running a bunch of banner ads for UC and Alabama. So my instructive tomorrow was to talk as much about UC as possible for 3 hours. So
well, there you go.
I started poking around, and tomorrow at 4:30, John Cunningham will join the show.
Whoa.
Live from Dallas. We got a little
breaking news.
Athletic breaking news. John Cunningham joins the show, and I'm working on potentially our good friend Pete Thamel joining tomorrow as well. So if you're not doing anything from
as I drive down,
sure. I'll plug the podcast with Dave. Like, Dave's my co-host. We previewed Alabama last night. Here is the synopsis, and if you want the rest, go listen to the podcast on your drive to Dallas. I'll get you a time. We'll get Dave on tomorrow. They told me to do 3 hours of Bearcats, Dave. I'm going to do 3 hours of Bearcats. I'll do like 2 hours and 15 minutes of Bearcats, and then I'll talk about Joe Burrow for the other 45. How's that?
Hey, that works for me.
That'll give you good quality entertainment for your for 3 hours of your ride.
Our guy at Football Scoop is at it again.
Doing what?
Offensively, numerous sources this week told Football Scoop that Kelly is expected to reunite with Mike Denbrock, Kelly's former Notre Dame offensive coordinator and assistant head coach, who spent 7 seasons alongside Kelly in South Bend.
Yeah, it's possible. He's a name to monitor for that job, and the longer they don't hire somebody for that job, what does it probably mean? That they're waiting on Mike Denbrock, who has told Brian Kelly, and I have confirmed, I'm busy. If you want to talk to me when I'm not busy, give me a call. But right now, I'm busy. That's nothing new.
I know.
I'm just for the people listening. That's nothing new. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh, I should retract some of what I said.
Okay.
The full quote was, as we reported a few weeks back, was in the works. LSU has now announced Matt House will be their new defensive coordinator, which is this guy's MO anyway. They say something, and then if it actually happens, they say we had this 3 weeks ago. But then it said article below is from 2 weeks ago. That is what I read regarding Coach Denbrock. So it wasn't actually
anything new
information. So I apologize for that.
All right. Well, that's the nice thing of doing a live show. You can correct it when necessary.
Now there's a picture of Dez and the other quarterbacks and Coach Gaduli with some Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
I saw that.
I'll tell you what, man. I heard this was the case beforehand, but
holy cow.
Going to the Cotton Bowl is like the bee's knees, man. They hook that shit up.
I am so mad that I had to be in for Mo tomorrow.
Yeah, because I could have been
in Dallas
down there
right now.
Drinking 3 Miller Lights and getting stuff in the media hospitality suite, where you get
media
like
hospitality suite
Oscar-style swag bag.
Looks like the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
It looked like a nightclub with video games and pool tables and couches and big screens and a bar and
3 squares a day. Like they had a carving station. I saw a carving station.
Could I just go pregame there and then go to the game?
No shit, man.
Yeah,
that's really the first place I'm going.
Screwed the BCJ staff on that one, buddy.
I mean, you guys could have gone. Like, there's nothing stopping any of you from being down there.
I'm not credentialed.
You didn't ask to be credentialed.
This is true.
Dave, next time Cotton Bowl, get credentialed, go down there just for the hospitality suite, and then don't use your credential for the game.
Yeah.
Rachel and Will are down there like, where's Daddy?
He's still drinking them free beers.
Mom, why haven't we seen Daddy in 2 days? He's not even staying at the Omni.
But yeah, the Cotton Bowl, like the way Dallas sets everything up. I mean, I guess party is like, thanks for Alabama winning. They might have been going to Miami, which I'm sure the Orange Bowl is fine.
It doesn't look like the Cotton Bowl, bro.
The Cotton Bowl, from a player, and that's the good thing too, is like, the way last year ended, like that was just like a go play another game. And it's good. Like, I like the fact that these guys get to experience like a truly, truly great bowl experience. Like, that's what we make fun of bowl games and we joke about, sponsors and some people get mad that there's like too much football. I'm like, well, that's not a thing. And if you don't want to watch it, then don't watch. Like, if you're not interested in watching Texas Tech and Mississippi State right now, then don't watch. Like, but there's no such thing as too much football. But these guys get the full deal, and that I think that's something that's pretty awesome for them, especially after last year and everything that they went through.
Yeah. How much do you think that stage, though, can prepare them for this stage, at least to an extent?
Oh, I think it does, no doubt. I mean, that and playing at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Like, what, like, in the way that their system is set up with their schedule and things like that, like, there's no other even relatively close opportunity.
Right.
And playing at Notre Dame and playing Georgia in the Peach Bowl, now granted, it was a far less than capacity crowd, but that didn't change the team that Georgia had. Like, those are Notre Dame made the playoff last year. Georgia made the playoff this year. Like, those are as close to what they're going to see Friday as they can get. So it's not like this isn't like, a lot of the older, whether it was the BCS or even in the playoff, where like these, group of 5 teams, not in the playoffs, but in the New Year's 6 games, went up against these teams from whoever, SEC, Big Ten, ACC. Like, there was no comparison to anyone that those teams played. So, like, those guys had no frame of reference for what they were about to see. And UC does. Like, UC can put on the film and go, okay, that guy right there, he is just like this guy that we played last year or in October from an athletic standpoint.
Right.
This guy's speed is very similar or the same to this guy's speed that we played when we played Georgia. Here's how you're going to have to cover him. Here's, this isn't like, when PJ Fleck and Central or Western Michigan went and played, I think it was Wisconsin, which isn't the most athletic team, but like, who is Central Michigan playing throughout the year that is any sort of barometer to what they were going to see in that game?
Right. And this team's also almost all of these guys have played Ohio State.
Yeah.
A dominant Ohio State team. You got their ass kicked, but they got to see what it looked like.
Right.
And I think there's something that has to be said. And disclaimer, it's Alabama, so this is different. But there's something that has to be said for they've played their best in the biggest games.
Oh, I don't think that has a. I don't think you have to say disclaimer. That's a fact. This year they have by far played their best against their best competition, and coupled in the with the games that mattered the most.
I think that has to be taken into consideration. That doesn't mean
that this game will go their way, will be competitive. But you can't just not notice that or not account for that in analyzing how, what their chances are. So, they're still a 2-touchdown favorite. Now, it is kind of interesting that the line has not moved off of 13.5 since it opened. And the over-under came down from 58.5 to 57.5 today. But it is interesting to me that line has, even though like 80% of the bets and 90% of the money are on Alabama, it hasn't moved.
Which is very strange.
Yeah, I would have thought it would have moved to like
14
and a half, 15. No, it still could. People might be slow playing their bets because of these games getting canceled, even though these playoff games ain't getting canceled. So I can just tell you that. Like,
it's a fact, Jack. They are not getting canceled. Absent something bananas happening 5 hours before the game, they're playing the damn games, regardless.
Do you like how the UCLA game got canceled like 2 hours before kickoff today?
Yeah, that's lovely.
And NC State's coach said like we had no idea that they were even like having COVID issues. Like, what? It's such a
over under 57.5 seems high to me, man. I don't know. I guess not. It's what, 24 each, basically.
Well, no, that would be 48
or the 34. Yeah, 34. Sorry,
I'm not good at math, but I know that.
Sorry, sorry.
I think you just have a one like explosive offense, even though it's going against a very good defense. It's still like an explosive offense against a very good offense that I wouldn't call explosive, but has it's one of the top scoring offenses in the country. I think from a gambling standpoint, it's hard to just like put that game in. Plus, if you're going to have a 14-point spread, you kind of have to have the over-under a little bit higher. Like, right. Unless you just think it's going to be like 28-14.
Yeah.
Which I think could very well be the final score, but
right.
All
right, I guess let's get into it. Simone family tailgate.
I have no idea what we're doing. We have no clue whatsoever.
So we've of course been invited to 2. If
Yes.
you'd like to partake in either.
I think I've probably been invited to the same ones. I just have no idea what we're doing.
Danco Joe
Yep.
Stewart, is having his RV set up in lot 14. And of course, obviously, Danco being the sponsor of the BBP and part of the BCJ family. And then another member of the BCJ family, the Republic of Cincinnati, is having their tailgate. They just announced today. Obviously, the Republic of Cincinnati and 513 shirts are one and the same. So go to the Republic of Cincinnati Twitter page. You can see where their tailgate is. You don't have, Jason wants to know, you don't have a Jello shot guy in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
I mean, we could make them. I'm staying at a friend's house.
You can see if your friend's wife is proficient in Jello shots and get you a couple trays ready to go.
I just don't know. I'm kind of flying blind on our pregame stuff. I think a lot of it is weather, maybe weather related. It looks like earlier today it looked like it was going to rain a lot. Pregame now maybe not so much. So
I think when I looked today, the rain was supposed to be more like late afternoon, early evening.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be ideal if we could get that rain to hold off until like 4 o'clock.
Or like 9.
Or what?
Or like 9 o'clock after the game.
Well, it's a dome.
I know, but I don't want to get wet after the game. Walking out.
Well, you get the rain from 4:30 to like 7, and then by the time you walk out, the rain's done.
Right.
Get ready for your New Year's Eve festivities.
Yeah, I'll probably be like asleep by 9 o'clock.
So you're not ready to set an over under? You don't? What time?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't.
You're gonna have Will. So you don't know what time you're gonna leave your friends.
Will's not going to the game.
No, but I mean, you're gonna have him, so maybe you have to be at your friend's house a little bit longer than you would ideally like to be.
Yeah, this is feeling more of like a get there pretty close to when the game starts.
Then it would be your fault if they lost because you didn't pump it up.
I could still pump it up.
You got to pump it up, Dave.
I'm more concerned with can I get confetti cannons into the stadium.
It's Texas. If it looks like a gun, they're going to be like, "You're good."
Yeah,
you're good. What time is Dave after dark? So I am driving home directly after the game. So once I get done with media responsibilities and all that, I am driving home.
If they win, I will be in no state to sit down for 30 minutes and do a podcast.
I might after we get like a couple hours on the road and get some miles under our belt, I might be inclined to either go live here on YouTube or go live on Twitter. And I guess I should try on the way down maybe Twitter Spaces. I hear that's pretty popular these days. Yeah, see Joe Stewart, Dave.
Yeah.
Joe knows.
Yeah, Twitter Spaces blew up when the kid decommitted from Florida State and went to Jackson State, and everybody got in Twitter Spaces to fire Mike Norvell.
So maybe Twitter Spaces is an option. Maybe trying to do something on YouTube Live is an option. I'm going to be driving all night, so there's a pretty good chance that you'll find me live somewhere. Will Dave join that? I don't know. Depends on what happens and if I can get Dave to chill for a small period of time.
We shall see.
My guess is probably not. If they lose, you're not going to feel like talking.
No.
If they win, you're not going to feel like talking.
Probably not.
Probably not. All right. Well, I guess we can't set an over under because we don't know what Dave's pregame plan is going to be. It's
Yeah.
sad. It's sad. If I set it at 6.5, do you think you'll be able to find the over before kickoff?
Probably not.
That's depressing. Did you hear Jim Kelly's line last night?
I did not. I was saving that for tomorrow's drive.
The line of the podcast, he was talking about after the Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
And he's walking back through the lot to get to his spot. And every UC tailgate, he passed, offered him a beer, and of course he drank it. And he said his line has always been after games, because everybody's been drinking all day and Jim's had to work. Said his line has always been, "Don't worry, I'll catch up." And with Jim, that's 1,000% true. Like,
oh yeah,
I love that man. I love that man. What'd you think about the Rick Flick story today?
Oh, that was awesome.
Great job by Pat Forty.
Yeah.
I saw him. So signing day, when I was waiting to do the coordinator interviews,
Right.
that was the day that Pat Forty spent all day with Rick Flick. So I saw him in the football offices that day and kind of got wind that it was coming, and heard the basics of what it was about. Just fantastic stuff. Like the media that has come out on this program this year, that alone is program changing, Dave.
Wild what happens when you go undefeated and make the college football playoff.
Right? All of a sudden, all the national media are looking for every little nook and cranny to file a story. All right, prediction time, Dave.
Prediction time. Well, I don't know, Chad.
You're 13-0 this year.
I am. I'm not trying to go. This isn't about going undefeated on the picks. This is about the team going undefeated on the field. But it is. I keep coming back to Nick Saban, Alabama in these semifinals.
Yeah.
Have not only won, they've pretty much kicked the crap out of everyone they've played. And that is everyone. Michigan State, obviously, but Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson, whoever. It hasn't mattered.
Yeah.
And that's just a hard thing for me to get over. Added to my concern of blocking Will Anderson and being able to run the ball. So while I think that the defense can keep them in the game, can make plays, can acquit themselves quite nicely, I am concerned about the offense holding up their end of the deal, and I believe Alabama will win somewhere in the neighborhood of 37-21.
37-21. You think this defense gives up 31?
I didn't say the defense was going to give up 31.
So you think there's a
37.
special team score or a pick six, something along those lines? Dave, I told myself I wasn't going to do it.
God, why? You're like the UCF guys.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
I'm kidding.
I told myself I wasn't going to do it.
You pick whoever you want to pick.
But the more I look at it, the more I've seen this team speak this week.
Are they whatever this name was, Ball, speaking it into existence?
No, I just think they haven't, the moment hasn't been too big for them.
Oh, I don't think it's too big.
They don't seem like they have any, like, they have a great respect for Alabama. They know what they're going up against. But it's kind of like we talked about. In the biggest games, this team has stepped up. And I don't think Alabama respects this team from listening to Alabama.
I wholeheartedly agree with you there.
I don't think Alabama is coming into this game with the respect that they have playing in Ohio State, playing in Oklahoma. I think they believe they're going to come into this. Does that think that I think they're ill-prepared? No. But I think the general nature of, like you talked about, this isn't a crazy veteran Alabama team. This is an Alabama team with a lot of 19, 20, 21-year-olds playing their first season really of being on the field a lot. And this isn't a team with a bunch of veteran leaders leading them into the playoff. I think they do it, Dave. 28-27 Cincinnati. Desmond Ridder leads a game-winning touchdown drive with under 3 minutes to go. The defense holds.
Wouldn't that be something?
The defense holds, and Cincinnati wins and advances to the national championship. Am I probably wrong? Yeah. Is there anything, like, do I lose anything for not being right? No. But I genuinely, I'm gonna put my faith in this team, Dave. I'm gonna put my belief in this team. I'm gonna say Luke Fickell and the Bearcats get it done. 28-27. They get on the plane, come home to prepare for Michigan. And we get 11 days of Luke Fickell versus Jim Harbaugh, which
so
really
you
is.
think Michigan's going to beat Georgia?
That's a selfish.
Oh, okay.
Prediction.
You're saying you're hoping for that.
Yeah, that's a selfish. I want 11 days of Luke Fickell and Jim Harbaugh having to talk about each other. I want nothing more.
Now I'm going to go on Twitter when you post this podcast. I'm going to retweet it, and I'm going to say, Bearcat Journal owner @Chad Brendel disrespects Alabama by saying Cincinnati will win 28-27.
If you listen to this podcast, I have not disrespected Alabama at all. I have a great deal of respect for
I'm just going to
Alabama.
do that to see if it ends up getting your mentions blown up.
Oh, of course it will. They already have blown up because they don't know how to take a joke like me joking about the transitive property. Like I really believe because UC Central Florida and Houston beat Florida and Auburn, that means Cincinnati is going to beat Alabama. Like these people don't know how to have fun.
Or that any of these bowl games
matter. Yeah.
Auburn's best corner was already out, and then they had two other corners thrown out for targeting. Like they had third stringers playing corner at the end of that game.
Right. Come on. Like it's sports. We're allowed to have a little fun.
No,
I don't
serious. Like we're talking about winning the national championship. There's nothing fun about it. It's all serious.
I think Joe's glad he doesn't sponsor this podcast because he doesn't. There's no way they give up 37.
I hope they don't either. But I've always been as realistic as I can be. I do not look at the games, or I try to not look at the games with any, bias towards UC. I feel like too many fan podcasts, do that already. Fan site podcasts, and I just look at them from a truly football standpoint. And I hope that isn't. I hope that's not true.
So you think Alabama gets up big early and just kind of keeps Cincinnati at bay?
I think it's kind of like a slow burn.
Okay. So what? 37 divided by 4, 10 points a quarter, a touchdown. That's what? Three 10-point quarters and a 7-point quarter.
Yeah, something like that.
So like 17-10, 17-7 at halftime.
Well, no, we
And
can't.
then-
We can only have 7 or 14 because I don't have us kicking any field goals.
No, you never know.
I know.
Cole
I'm
Smith
saying
might be
my
back.
score has 21. So
My score is 28.
we might know
So,
something.
Are you excited for Let It Fly? Is that tomorrow or is that Thursday that
I think
goes
it's
out?
tomorrow, so I'll have to catch it once we get
Once you're on
back
the
to
road.
the hotel and situated.
Dave is already doing Jello shots if he thinks the D is giving up 37.
I mean,
Did he
come
not?
on.
Jason, did you not listen? Come on, Jason. He said he doesn't
Like,
think it's going to be all the D.
what do you guys want me to say? That the UC wins 42-14? Like, I mean, so if I said they gave up 31 points and they lost by 10, that would be acceptable? Or they lost 31-14? Like, I don't think they're going to win. So put as many points as you want on the Alabama side. I think it's going to be more than the UC side.
And this goes back to what? 3 days after the national championship game. I was taking the crew down to Galactic Fried Chicken, and Dave and I were talking about the podcast plan over the next couple weeks and how we wanted to map things out to give you guys the best entertainment without overloading you on Alabama preview. And yeah, we're disrespecting UC and Bama
Both
now.
teams.
Yeah.
Chad Brendel disrespects Alabama by picking UC to win. Co-host David Simone disrespects both teams by picking Alabama to win. Or disrespect Cincinnati. So both hosts are we're just disrespectful to college football as a whole.
So we were jokingly, like, not joking, but we were talking about, like, there are some things here about this game that, Cincinnati has some advantages, and this is they've got a chance to stay in this game. And then I said, so you're picking Cincinnati? And Dave was like, absolutely not. That was the first production meeting for this podcast.
Yeah.
So when I asked Dave for his prediction, I had a pretty good
First
idea.
and only that we've ever had.
We talk about the show sometimes.
Sometimes,
Usually at least once a week we chat for a few minutes. But I don't like it like that. I like the spontaneity. Let's just not overthink this. Let's just get each other's natural reactions. And like, I don't want to call Dave and be like, Dave, tell me everything you got on Alabama.
And then have me like tell it to you again.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. I want my natural reaction to what you're saying based on what I've studied and like what I know about them. And I think it's better that way. So Dave's riding Bama. You're taking Bama and laying the points.
What did I say? 37-21? Then yes, I would be laying the points.
He's 58. So you're taking Bama, the points, giving the points, and taking the over
by half a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there gambling in Texas? Are you allowed to?
I don't know.
I don't know if there's sports wagering in Texas. It's Texas. Why would there not be?
Pretty much everything else is legal there, isn't it? I mean,
no, I don't think the marijuana is legal there.
But I don't know. I have several friends that do the online gambling. My one friend that lives in Texas, I do not believe he participates. So I don't know. But I would not be playing this game anyway. I do not bet and have never bet. Well, I take that back. I have bet a UC game recently because that was free money. And if you didn't do that, then I'm sorry. So I guess no.
All right.
That
well,
would be a no. The gambling. But yeah.
I guess that's it.
Yeah. Do we have we were going to do the live basketball game podcast, but apparently, the Houston Cougars have COVID issues.
They have two of our three best players.
Which is a convenient way of saying two of our four best players are out for the year.
Yeah. They're not just hurt. They're out.
Yeah.
They ain't coming back this year.
And those positive tests really reared their heads when those guys got hurt.
Right?
Funny how that works sometimes.
It's amazing. I do think things are looking better for Tulane, best I can tell. It sounds like they are back at practice.
Is that Saturday?
That's Saturday at 7:00.
At home? Is that
Yes.
at home? Okay.
My wife is in here like messing with my blinds.
Who is back at practice? Was Tulane suspended?
Tulane is back at practice. I think they're supposed to play Memphis tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So if that game happens, then clearly then things would seem to be on track
You
for
would think so.
UC. Safe travels, everybody. If you are traveling, which I would guess a lot of you in your cars who are now irrationally upset with Dave. I can't blame you.
I'm sorry.
I can't blame you. Gary Clark started tonight. No Trayvon Scott yet at halftime. It's pretty cool to see all the Bearcats in the league right now.
Jaron
Lance
got
is
in
back.
at the end of the
Jaron's
game last
back.
night
Yeah.
for the Blazers.
COVID has been good to the NBA Bearcats.
I feel like Jared will find Portland to his liking.
That seems like a place I think he could rock with. Benedict Simone. There it is. I
don't want to hear any of this shit if this comes to fruition. We call all you guys out individually on the Twitter if I'm right. For giving me crap. For being straight down the middle with my analysis.
Benedict Simone. I'm going to leave that up for the rest of the podcast.
I'm probably the same height.
No online legal gambling in Texas. Can you gamble like it's at casinos, sports books?
I don't think they have casinos.
Oh, that's right. Man, for a place that's supposed to be where everything's bigger, there's no gambling, there's no casinos, there's no marijuana, just guns.
Carry a bunch of guns around wherever I want, but I can't play a little. Can't play a little Keno.
So everybody in the car headed to Dallas. Continued safe travels, and tomorrow, 3 to 6, Cincinnati's ESPN 1530. I'm in for Mo Egger. It's going to be a Bearcat dominated 3 hours. So if you want, ESPN1530.com/listen or the iHeart Radio or the iHeart Media app. You can get it on there.
What is the new studio setup like where you can't eat, where you're not even like around your producer? That has to be odd.
He's like, I'm on like this side of a hallway. He is in the opposite hallway. There's an entire row of studios, and he's in like the 5th room. Is this like a thing that is happening at a lot of radio stations? Like, well, I don't know.
What is the point in that?
So I think what it comes down to is that
like all the equipment is in like a same spot instead of having like,
so there are air studios, and then there are production studios. And the producers are in the production studios, and they're in like a different place than the air studios.
Right.
So
now Joe is sucking up to me by telling me I'm smart, and he really likes my takes. And that
Dave hopes he's wrong.
And now he's concerned, and he's just hoping that I'm wrong.
Look, I mean, is it really a surprise to pick Bama? They're a 13.5-point favorite. Like,
I'm not really going out on a limb here.
I should be picking Bama. I've let my emotions kind of take over this week as I've watched from afar that I think this team is ready. I think I think they're going to be ready for the stage. Now, Does that make them immune from Bama coming out and scoring the first 17 points and ending the game in 10 minutes? No. No, it does not. But I think they're going to be able to hang around. I think they're going to give themselves a puncher's chance. And just because it's the media today and there are no repercussions for being wrong, I'm going to pick Cincinnati by a point. I'll probably be wrong. But if I'm right, you're going to fucking hear about it for a long time, Dave.
Oh, yeah, we are. I already got my post-game tweet, been working on that one for if they win. I mean, we're ready.
All right, good.
Just how wild is it though? Like, just take a step back and be like,
it's unbelievable.
They're in the fucking national semifinals. They're in
against
the
Alabama.
Against Alabama. We're all going to the Cotton Bowl. Like, I think part of the reason, I'm not sure on my tailgating is I think I just want to get there as early as I can and just
walk around.
Just sit in my seat and watch how everything unfolds, and as people come in and as it gets closer and closer and the atmosphere builds and the anxiety and all those things. I mean, I have thought about the game a lot. I have not been particularly anxious about the game yet. I don't typically get that way, especially this year, because I've been ultra confident. So I guess if you're super confident in what's going to happen, maybe it doesn't hit you the same way. But I feel like being in the arena, so to speak, of a game that is, leaps and bounds the biggest in program history, that might, change a little bit, but it's just so wild still.
What would your grandpa say if you told him?
Dude, I don't want to talk about it.
You don't want to cry on air?
Pretty much, because I've thought about it so many times. I have a picture of him and I on the field. I think it was it was towards the end of the season, but it's in my car, it put it in my dashboard. So I see it every time I drive. And I'm just man, if you were here to see this.
Yeah. I told Kelsey tonight it was my stepmom's birthday. So we were out having some dinner and we were all just it was me and Kelly and Kelsey and my dad and my stepmom. And we were talking about the trip. And I was you realize this is something you're going to remember. Win, lose, or draw. This will be a trip you'll remember for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, when you think about Papa, when you think about your dad, this trip is going to be part of it. So I'm excited about that. It is house money, man.
Oh, for sure it is. I mean, all of the talk of style points and are they playing tight? Are they trying to play perfect? I mean, it does reverse itself, but they can play loose. But at the same time, they still don't want, no matter what, and I don't think, only dumb people, if say UC gets beat just like everybody else has gotten beat by Alabama, they'll be the dumb people. They're see, they didn't belong.
Right.
The outcome of this game is not a referendum on them as a team, them this season. They absolutely did belong. But I'm sure there's still going to be it's not they can just throw caution to the wind and, YOLO, so to speak, they want to win. So, they're still going to be nervous. They're still going to be, conservative at times, I'm sure, because that's just the way that they operate.
Right.
And they're going to feel like they have a chance to win. So they're not going to take unnecessary risks, like you do in just some random bowl game. If you're the upstart team, you won the whatever Sun Belt and you made it into the Fiesta Bowl. Sure, you're literally running every play you could think of to try to win the game. That's not the case
right.
in this type of a game.
I don't know. I think the thing that always has amazed me, and we'll talk, I'm sure, plenty more about this on this after this is all over. and we've talked about it a lot before as well, but they didn't do this with gimmicks, Dave.
Oh no, there's nothing gimmicky or fluky or.
Luke Fickell built a Power 5 football program in the G5. That's what happened. He didn't build a G5 program that could compete with Power 5 teams. He built a Power 5 football program at Cincinnati, and now they get to see at what level that Power 5 football program has been built.
Well,
at stage, in year 5 of the development.
Kind of going off of that, did you see Bill Conley from ESPN put out his rankings?
It was paywalled, so I don't have ESPN.
So yeah, the best playoff teams of all time. The rank, the whole.
If I have ESPN Plus, do I get ESPN Insider?
Yeah.
Oh, I just have to log in.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But he ranked by SP Plus all the playoff teams of all of the playoff era. I think UC was 26th out of 32. And then he ranked the best non-Power 5, whatever he said, the top 15 teams of the BCS and playoff era.
Okay.
This year's UC team was number 1. The people in Orlando are not going to be big fans of one Mr. Bill Conley. I'll just say
Thank you, Central Florida, for paving the way.
Yeah. If you really paved the way, your best team ever would have been higher than 8th in Mr. Bill Conley's best G5, whatever non-BCS teams of all time.
Yeah. Where was 09?
I don't think 09 was on there.
Which would make sense. The defense was not great.
Last year's team was 9th.
Okay.
Because this goes all the way back to Utah when they beat Alabama. We're talking BCS teams and playoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of good Boise teams, good Utah teams, the TCU team that beat Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. I don't think I'd have the 09 team in that top group.
Dave, you did pick Cincinnati over Notre Dame, and I did pick Notre Dame over Cincinnati.
Because I picked them over Notre Dame because I thought that they would beat Notre Dame.
Joe says he hopes the roles are reversed. Stick to my guns. Joe, you know enough about me right now that once I draw my guns, the guns are getting fired. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I put myself in enough situations for everybody to know once the guns are out, the bullets are flying.
It does, but SP Plus does use recruiting rankings, but not like FPI does. They're adjusted. Things get adjusted as the season goes on.
Right. All right, I got the hiccups, and I need to hop off of here and jump onto the Pardon the Punctuation podcast. So I'm still going. Dave, you're getting some rest. What time are you leaving?
I think we're heading out around lunchtime.
Okay. I think by the time you get there, we'll just about probably be getting on the road. I think we're leaving about 11 tomorrow night.
Oh, no, I'll be there well before that. It's only 7 hours. I'm driving to Memphis.
Oh, okay. You're going to Memphis and then doing the rest of the way in the morning?
Yeah, it's basically exactly halfway. Dude, yeah. I got a two and a half year old.
I forgot that
14 straight hours.
It's a good point.
Maybe on the way back. We haven't decided that one yet. The goal is to try and see.
I mean, if you drive through the night, he should sleep mostly through the night. You would think.
You would think with most 2.5-year-olds.
Right. But with us doing Twitter Spaces while you're driving,
yeah.
Are you're leaving after the game?
No, we're not leaving till the first.
Okay, gotcha.
No, we're gonna go back to my buddies, and since
we'll
already probably be in bed by the time we get back.
Right.
So, yep, we'll just get up and go January 1st and either have a lot of fun things to listen to and read or stay off my phone for the whole day.
All right, man. Great show. Thanks to everybody here for joining us. Thanks, Joe. I'm not the hardest working man in Bearcat land. That's
He
Luke
was
Fickell.
talking about me.
Oh, talking about Dave. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Clearly.
Gotcha.
Clearly.
I was the one. I'm going to do another podcast about the Bearcats.
I'm going to bed.
Okay. Yeah. So who's the hardest working man in UC athletic, UC coverage? Justin's drinking at a unlimited bar right now.
Justin got to go down to Dallas on Monday and do a bunch of Zooms and just sit in a hospitality room for 3 straight days.
Yeah, sit in a massage chair, play some ping pong, and eat and drink for free.
Yeah.
Asshole.
Thank you, athletic.
Yeah. If the tightwad that ran this company would have sent me down, I'd have been there.
I'm gonna have to talk to upper management about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have a meeting with the BCJ Media
conglomerate
CEO tomorrow.
The
all right, man.
C-suite
Have a
of
safe
Bearcat
trip.
Journal. All right.
I'm serious. You want to come on tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, we'll work out a time.
Depends on what the kid's doing. If he's sleeping, maybe we can do that.
All right. Well, that wraps it up. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. That is our Cotton Bowl Alabama preview, national semifinals, Friday.
Disrespect galore.
Disrespect
that should be the title. Just unlimited disrespect
everywhere. We will see you next week to talk about what happened. I'm Chad Brendel. He's Dave Simone. If you're not going to Dallas, go to the Holy Grail. We'll see you next time. It's the Holy Grail BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com.